Photoshop is really useful for adjusting colors and increasing sharpness in images, but it's also useful for things like straightening images and improving composition. So go ahead and open up photographer.jpg from the support files. And let's say you had a photo portrait and you wanted it just to be rotated slightly so that the background was level. And you could guess, you could go to image rotation, arbitrary, so that you can put in a specific number, say like 2.15 or a certain number of degrees, clockwise or counterclockwise, and just try to guess. But there's a fast way to straighten a portrait photo that's pretty useful. So go and select the crop tool on the toolbar. Make sure there's no preset numbers up here at the top of the options bar. Just click straighten. And what that will allow us to do is if you just click on along an area that you think should be straight, say in the background, Photoshop is going to rotate it either counterclockwise or clockwise so that line that we drew is level. Alright, so that straightens the photo. And we have a crop here. It's going to crop out. If I just double click anywhere in here, it's going to crop, and it's not going to have some of the same content that we had earlier. I'll show you what I mean. See this right here, and right there, and right there. One way to fix that is just go ahead and click and drag it to the edge. And so it is level now, but we've got this area where we need to fill in. You can actually make selections there with the marquee selection tool, and you can go to edit, fill, and make sure content is content aware. And we'll try to figure out, I did an okay job. There's a little bit of repeating pattern there, but otherwise we can crop out so that we just have different edges to it. All right, I'm going to step backward a little bit here, show you a little bit more about cropping. So when we are cropping, say we want to level it, or we don't even want to level, we just want to crop, obviously we can click and drag the edge. What's really useful is these guidelines that you see here. This is the traditional rule of thirds in photography. There's also a grid, there's a diagonal, there's a triangle. Some photographers like to look for triangles in their composition in portrait photography. Golden ratio, like the divine proportion, golden spiral. Those can all be pretty useful. So if we're going for the rule of thirds, we can click and drag and make it so she's in this top left hand third there, and then double click. So cropping, we don't use it just to straighten or just take out things in the background that might be distracting. It also can improve the composition. We can use the crop tool in that way as well. Another way we can straighten a photo though is not just in using the crop tool. We can also, if you make a measurement, for example, if you go to the eyedropper tool, click and hold on to it, go to the ruler tool, click and drag along an area that should be straight, and then if you go to image rotation, arbitrary, it will have put that in there, 2.58 counterclockwise, and then it makes it that. So it does the same thing. It just takes a couple more steps. So the crop tools, straighten tool is something that they added later. It's a little bit quicker when you want to straighten a photo. But another way to straighten a photo is if we go to filter and then camera raw filter. So normally we would need a raw file, right, to open up in Photoshop so that it opens up the raw dialog, but we can actually just go to filter, camera raw filter, and it gives us those same options as if it was a raw file, even though we're working with a JPEG. So in the camera raw filter menu, click, just hover over these, and there should be one called lens correction. Here it's the sixth one over from the left. And if you go to color, there's some options there, but if you go to manual, that manual tab there, this is where if you had some lens barrel distortion, you could go left and right and adjust that. Say you were taking a photo with the telephoto lens or a wide angle lens and it had some distortion, we could fix that there. Vertical and horizontal perspective can be adjusted there. We can rotate. So this is kind of like earlier if we're trying to rotate. And also scale obviously just makes it larger and smaller. All right. So all of them are at 0 by default except the scale is at 100. All right. So you can click and drag and see what all those do. Now, as far as straightening a photo, you can actually, this is a really powerful tool within Camera Raw Filter in Photoshop. If you just click right where it says upright, if you click A, apply balanced perspective corrections, it will do it for you, what it thinks that it should be. And you can use this in portrait photos where maybe the background was a little bit uneven and you just want to improve it, or many different types of photos we can use this. All right, so it's pretty powerful, and then you can obviously crop it after the fact. But if we hit OK, you can also show a grid if you want down at the bottom. But if you hit OK, and then we would just crop it there, or use content aware fill if you we want to do that. All right, so that's two different ways, or really three different ways of straightening. The Camera Raw filter is pretty powerful, and we'll get into that more in detail later. But if you just want to quickly straighten a photo or improve the composition, then just choose the crop tool. Make sure straighten is selected if you want to straighten it first, and then you can improve the composition that way.